The small spaceship broke through Earth's clouds, its silver hull catching the morning sunlight. Inside, 5 students from across the galaxy clutched their seats. None of them had ever visited a death world before. "Approaching landing zone," announced the ship's computer in a calm voice. "Earth atmospheric conditions, oxygen levels toxic to Centaurians, gravity dangerous to Pleiadians, temperature hazardous to Sirians, humidity lethal to Tau Cetians, and radiation concerning for vegans." Blue's skin rippled with fear, the usual, bright cyan of his face fading to a pale tint. As a Centaurian, his people breathed methane gas. Earth's oxygen-rich air would burn his lungs without his special breathing mask. "Why did we agree to this?" he whispered to the others. Gray shrugged 4 of his 6 limbs. "The Galactic Academy said it would look good on our records." Being from the low-gravity Pleiades collective, he wore mechanical leg supports to help him stand in Earth's crushing pull. Red checked her thermal suit for the 5th time. The indicators all showed green, but she couldn't stop worrying. Coming from the ice plains of Sirius Major, Earth's mild spring felt like sitting inside an active volcano to her. "I heard humans drink water. Actual water, full of microbes and minerals," said Green, his wide eyes blinking nervously behind protective goggles. On his desert homeworld of Tau Ceti, water in such large amounts was seen as a dangerous substance. Purple, the tallest of them all, ducked to avoid hitting her head on the ceiling. "Remember what Professor Zott told us," she said. "Earth is classified as a death world not because it's the most extreme planet, but because the humans can survive almost anything. That's why the Galactic Academy wants us to study them." The ship landed with a soft thud on a green field. Through the viewports they could see strange rectangular buildings made of something called brick and concrete, instead of proper metals or grown coral. Hundreds of humans walked between these buildings, most of them young. "Welcome to Westridge University," said the computer. "Local time is 9:15 a.m. Outside temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Please ensure all protective gear is active before exiting." The 5 alien students checked their equipment one last time. Each wore specialized gear to keep them alive in Earth's harsh conditions. They looked like space explorers ready to walk on a hostile moon, not exchange students arriving for a semester abroad. The door slid open and Earth air rushed in through the filters. They smelled something strange. Plants, water vapor, and 1,000 scents they couldn't name. A human stood waiting at the bottom of the ramp. He wore only thin fabric coverings and had no protective gear at all. His face was stretched in what they recognized from their cultural training as a smile, a baring of teeth that somehow wasn't meant as a threat display. "Hi there, I'm Tom, your student guide. Welcome to Earth." The human's voice was loud and enthusiastic. He waved, all 5 fingers on his right hand at them. The aliens huddled closer together. They had studied humans, of course. They knew these beings could break bones with their bare hands, run for hours without stopping, eat almost anything, and survive injuries that would kill most sentient species. Humans could bite through flesh, see in low light, and even regrow certain tissues when damaged. They were, by galactic standards, terrifying. Tom seemed not to notice their fear. "Let me help you with your bags. The dean is excited to meet our first extraterrestrial exchange students. This is history in the making." Blue stepped forward first, his translator working to convert his chemical speech into English. "Thank you for your welcome. We are honored to be the first participants in this program." Tom grabbed Blue's luggage, lifting what should have been a heavy case with shocking ease. The aliens exchanged nervous glances, another reminder of human strength. "So," Tom said as he led them across the grass, "you're arriving just in time for one of our biggest traditions. The annual Intercollegiate Coach War starts next week." Red's translator must have malfunctioned, the aliens thought. It sounded like the human said war. "I'm sorry," Purple said carefully. "Did you say war?" Tom laughed. "Yeah, it's the highlight of the spring semester. 12 schools compete. Coach Miller has been training all year for it. He says with you, 5 joining us, we have a real shot at beating Eastlake University this time." The aliens stopped walking. "You expect us to participate in a war?" Green asked, his skin darkening with stress. Tom turned around, his face showing confusion. Well, yeah, that's part of the exchange program. Cultural immersion and all that, don't worry, it's super fun. The aliens couldn't believe what they were hearing. The information packet from the Galactic Academy had mentioned cultural activities and sporting events, but nothing about warfare. Is this why Earth is considered a death world? Gray asked. Because you force visitors to fight in your battles? Tom's eyes widened, then he burst out laughing. He laughed so hard he had to put down Blue's luggage and bend over, holding his stomach. Oh, man, he finally said, wiping his eyes. I see the confusion. It's not an actual war. It's just what we call the competition between our sports coaches. Each school's athletic department competes in a series of events. We call it a war because it gets pretty intense, but nobody gets hurt. Well, not seriously. The relief was immediate but short-lived. What kind of events? Blue asked cautiously. Oh, normal stuff. Running, swimming, team sports, obstacle courses, strategy games. Coach Miller heads our physical education department, so he leads our team. Swimming? Green whispered in horror. On his world, large bodies of water house the most dangerous predators. Running? In this gravity? Gray looked like he might faint. Outside? In the open air? Blue's breathing mask whirred faster. Tom's smile faltered. Hey, don't worry. Coach Miller knows you guys have different, physical needs. He'll find ways for everyone to participate safely. Just then, a loud bell rang across the campus. The aliens jumped, reaching for emergency buttons on their suits. That's just the class bell, Tom assured them. Look, there's Coach Miller now. A large human jogged toward them across the grass. This one was bigger than Tom, with more muscle mass and less hair on top of his head. He wore bright clothes with the words, Westridge Athletics, printed across the chest. You must be our space students, the coach boomed, his voice even louder than Tom's. Welcome to Earth. I'm Coach Miller and I can't wait to get you on the team. He reached out and slapped Purple on the back, a gesture of friendship that nearly knocked the tall alien over. The team needs all the help it can get this year, Coach Miller continued. Eastlake's Coach Wilson has been bragging all winter about his new training techniques. But wait until he sees I've got 5 students from across the galaxy. His face will be priceless. The coach looked at them with bright, eager eyes. So, what special abilities do you all have? Super strength? Telepathy? Extra arms could be useful for the relay races. The 5 exchange students looked at each other, in growing panic. This human thought they had special powers. In reality, they were struggling just to stand on this dangerous planet without their bodies failing. We do not have what you would call special abilities, Blue tried to explain. In fact, by comparison to humans, we are quite fragile. Coach, Miller's smile didn't dim at all. Nonsense, everyone has their strengths, we'll find yours. First team meeting is tomorrow at 7 a.m. sharp on the practice field. We'll introduce you to everyone and start basic training. Basic training? Red squeaked. Sure. Nothing too rough for the first day. Just a 5-mile run, some strength assessment, and maybe water survival skills if we have time. 5 sets of alien eyes widened in pure terror. I think, said Tom, noticing their reaction, maybe we should get them settled in their rooms first, Coach. Let them adjust to Earth gravity and atmosphere. Good thinking, Tom. Rest up, space cadets. Tomorrow we make history as the first interplanetary Coach War team. With another bone-rattling pat on Purple's shoulder, Coach Miller jogged away. As they watched him go, Blue turned to the others. I believe, he said slowly, that we have made a terrible mistake. Tom picked up their luggage again. Come on, guys. It's really not as bad as it sounds. The Coach War is actually pretty fun. On our worlds, Purple said quietly. What you call fun we call survival training. As they followed Tom toward the dormitories, a crowd of human students began to gather, pointing and whispering at the strange visitors. Look, one said loudly. Those must be the aliens Coach Miller was talking about. Do you think they're as tough as they look? Another laughed. They better be. Coach Wilson already has 3 weightlifters and a marathon runner on his team. The foreign students couldn't believe their ears. Somehow they had traveled across the galaxy to study humans, only to become unwitting participants in a death world's idea of a friendly competition, and the coach war hadn't even started yet. The 5 alien students did not sleep well their first night on Earth. Their special rooms in the university's science building had been modified for their needs, but nothing could fully prepare them for the planet's constant noises, its strange smells, and the terrifying knowledge that tomorrow they would face whatever basic training meant to these fearsome humans. Blue lay awake, his breathing mask hissing softly as it converted oxygen to methane. From the next room, he could hear Gray adjusting his anti-gravity supports, trying to find comfort in Earth's crushing pull. Down the hall, Red's cooling system hummed as it fought to keep her body temperature bearable in what humans called room temperature, but felt like an oven to her. Green had sealed his quarters and filled them with dry air, fighting the horrible dampness of Earth. And Purple, whose people slept standing up, kept bumping into the ceiling whenever she dozed off. Morning came too quickly. Tom knocked on their doors at 6:30 a.m., his voice cheerful. "Rise and shine, space cadets. Coach Miller is waiting." They dragged themselves to the dining hall first. The humans were eating foods that looked strange and smelled even stranger. The alien students had brought their own nutrition packs from home, specially designed for their different biologies. "You're not going to try pancakes?" Tom asked, looking disappointed as he sat down with a plate stacked with flat brown circles covered in sticky amber liquid. "We cannot digest your food," Red explained. "It would make us very sick." "That's too bad," Tom said, pouring more of the amber liquid over his food. "Earth cuisine is amazing." Purple watched with horror as Tom cut into the food and put it in his mouth. "You are consuming plant and animal matter directly into your body, without processing it first?" Tom nodded, his mouth full. "Best way to eat." The aliens looked at each other. Humans didn't just survive on this death world. They seemed to enjoy its dangers. After breakfast, Tom led them to a large open field where Coach Miller waited with about 20 human students. Everyone wore the same bright clothes with Westridge Athletics printed on them. "Here they are," Coach Miller shouted when he saw them. "Our cosmic competitors." The human students stared at the aliens with curious eyes. The aliens stared back, from behind their various protective gear. "First," said Coach Miller, "let me explain what the Coach War is all about. Every spring, 12 universities in this region compete in a series of athletic and mental challenges. Each school's head coach, that's me, leads their team. The winning school gets a big trophy, lots of glory, and bragging rights for a year." He pointed to a tall metal cup displayed in a glass case at the edge of the field. "That's last year's trophy. Eastlake University won it. This year it's coming back to Westridge." The human students cheered and clapped. The aliens just looked confused. "So, it's not actual combat?" Blue asked through his translator. Coach Miller laughed. No, it's a sports competition, though things can get pretty intense, especially in the final rounds." "What exactly do we have to do?" Gray asked, leaning heavily on his mechanical supports. "Great question." Coach Miller rubbed his hands together. "This year's Coach War has 6 events. The obstacle course challenge, the academic bowl, the relay race, the swimming competition, the strategy game, and the final endurance test. With each event named, the aliens felt more and more doom settling over them. "And this year's theme is embracing diversity," Coach Miller continued. "Each team must show how they incorporate different strengths and abilities. That's why you 5 are so important. You bring literal diversity from across the galaxy." A tall human student raised his hand. "Coach, are there rules about using, alien abilities? Seems kind of unfair if they can do stuff we can't." Coach Miller nodded. "Good point, Jack. According to the official rules, non-human participants may use their natural abilities, but no technological advantages beyond what's necessary for their survival on Earth." The aliens exchanged worried glances. The humans thought they had special powers. They didn't understand that without their technological advantages, the aliens would simply die on this hostile planet. "Before we start training, let's introduce ourselves," Coach Miller said. "I want everyone to say their name and something special they bring to the team." The human students went first. Jack was tall and good at something called basketball. Emma was fast and held the school record in track. Marcus was strong and competed in wrestling. The list went on, each human describing physical abilities that sounded impossible to the aliens. Then it was their turn. "I am blue," said the Yar. Centaurian nervously. We cannot breathe your air. Without my mask, I would die in minutes." There was an awkward silence. "But what are you good at?" Coach Miller prompted. Blue thought for a moment. "On my world, I am a mathematician. I can calculate complex equations very quickly." Coach Miller's face lit up. "Perfect for the academic. Bull. Next." "I am gray," said the Pleiadian. "My world has 1/3 of Earth's gravity. These supports help me stand, but I cannot run like humans." "But?" Coach Miller waited. "But I have 6 limbs and excellent hand-eye coordination. Fantastic for the strategy game." Next, one by one, the aliens explained their limitations and their few possible contributions. Red had excellent night vision. Green could change his skin, color slightly to match his surroundings. Purple had extraordinary hearing and could detect sounds humans couldn't hear. To their surprise, Coach Miller found each of these minor traits exciting. The human students, too, seemed impressed rather than disappointed. "Now that we know each other," Coach Miller said, "let's see what you can do. We'll start with a light warm-up." What followed was anything but light to the aliens. The humans jogged easily around the field, their bodies seemingly unbothered by Earth's gravity, temperature, and air. The aliens struggled to keep up, even for one lap. Blue had to stop and adjust his breathing mask. Gray's supports whirred and strained. Red's cooling system went into emergency mode. Green kept as far from the field's sprinklers as possible. Purple tried to copy the human's movements but found her longer limbs tangled up. After the warm-up, Coach Miller divided them into groups to try different activities. The aliens were paired with human students who were supposed to help them learn the basics of Earth sports. That's when they had their first visitor. A vehicle pulled up beside the field, and another human in bright clothes stepped out. This one's clothes were blue and gold instead of Westridge's red and white. "Miller," the newcomer called. "Thought I'd stop by and see what you're up to this year." Coach Miller's friendly face suddenly hardened. "Wilson, spying already?" The other coach laughed. "Just friendly reconnaissance. And what do we have here?" He walked over to stare at the alien students. "Space students? Really, Miller? That's your strategy?" "Eastlake has 2 international students this year," Coach Miller said defensively. "We've gone interplanetary. The theme is embracing diversity, remember?" Coach Wilson circled the aliens, looking them up and down. "They don't look like much. Can they even handle Earth conditions?" Blue felt his skin ripple with embarrassment. The human was right. They were struggling just to stand on this field. "What do you expect from beings from that backwater mudball?" Coach Wilson said with a smirk. The aliens weren't sure what he meant at first. Then they realized he was talking about Earth. Coach Wilson was mocking the human's own planet. To everyone's surprise, Green stepped forward. His protective goggles gleamed in the sunlight as he faced the rival coach. "You are wrong," Green said, his voice steady despite his fear. "Earth is not a backwater mud ball. It is classified as a death world because it has produced the most adaptable species in the known galaxy." Coach Wilson raised an eyebrow. "Oh? You have never seen anything like human endurance," Green continued, surprising even himself with his words. "On my world, we study humans because they can survive conditions that would kill most sentient beings. They eat plants and animals. They drink water full of minerals. They breathe oxygen. They stand under open sky with only a thin layer of atmosphere protecting them from space. And they do it all without noticing." Coach Miller was staring at Green with wide eyes. So were the human students. "These humans," Green said, pointing to the Westridge team, "run for fun. They swim in natural bodies of water. They stay outside during temperature changes that would send most species into hibernation. They are not weak. They are terrifying." There was a moment of silence. Then Coach Miller let out a whoop and slapped Green on the back, carefully as he'd learned the aliens were fragile. You tell him, Green. Westridge is going to win this year because we understand what real diversity means. Working together, despite differences. Coach Wilson's smirk had faded. We'll see about that, Miller. We'll see. He turned and walked back to his vehicle. As he drove away, the human students gathered around Green. Did you really mean that? Emma asked. About humans being terrifying? Green's skin flushed a darker shade. It is what we learn in our xenobiology classes. Earth is considered one of the hardest planets to visit because its conditions are so extreme and variable, and humans are considered one of the most durable species because you can adapt to almost anything. The human students looked at each other with new eyes, as if they'd never considered this perspective before. All right, team, Coach Miller said, clapping his hands together. Let's get back to training. We've got a Coach War to win. As they returned to their practice stations, the aliens realized something had changed. The humans looked at them with new respect. And they, in turn, had discovered something unexpected, pride in being associated with these incredible beings from a death world. Maybe, just maybe, they could survive this Coach War after all. The next few days were the strangest the alien students had ever experienced. Every morning they joined Coach Miller and the human team for training. Every evening, they collapsed in their modified rooms, exhausted and amazed by what they had seen. Humans are even more remarkable than our studies suggested, Purple said as they gathered in Blue's room to compare notes after a particularly difficult day. They don't just survive on this death world, they enjoy its challenges. Blue nodded, his breathing mask making a soft hissing sound. Today I watched Jack fall down and damage his ankle joint. On my world, such an injury would require a cybernetic replacement. But Coach Miller just put frozen water on it and told Jack to walk it off. And he did. That's nothing, said Gray, adjusting his gravity supports. I saw Emma run for 1 hour straight, 1 hour in this gravity. And she was smiling the whole time. Red shuddered, her thermal suit working overtime to keep her cool. Marcus invited me to join something called a sauna tomorrow. He said they sit in a small room and make it hotter on purpose. For enjoyment. I told him it would kill me. Green, who had been quiet, finally spoke. I think I understand now why humans are the way they are. This planet forces them to be tough. They can't change it, so they've adapted to enjoy its dangers. The door opened, and Tom poked his head in. Hey, Space Cadets, Coach Miller wants you at the lake tomorrow morning. Bring your gear. After he left, the aliens looked at each other in horror. The lake? Green whispered. A large body of unprocessed, unfiltered water, full of microorganisms and minerals. Coach Miller mentioned the swimming competition. Purple reminded them. I guess we need to learn about it. None of them slept well that night. The next morning, they stood at the edge of what humans called a small lake, but looked like a vast, dangerous ocean to the aliens. Coach Miller and several human students were already there, some of them wearing minimal clothing that exposed their skin directly to the air. Today we practice for the swimming competition, Coach Miller announced cheerfully. Don't worry if you've never swum before, we'll teach you the basics. The aliens hung back nervously. Is it safe? Blue asked, looking at the dark water. Of course, Coach Miller said. Well, as long as you can swim. If not, you could drown. But that's why we have lifeguards. He pointed to 2 humans sitting on tall chairs watching the water carefully. Drown? Red asked, her translator struggling with the word. It means to die from breathing water instead of air, Tom explained helpfully. But it almost never happens with proper supervision. The aliens' fear grew. Humans casually mentioned death as if it were a minor inconvenience. I cannot enter the water, Green said firmly. On my world, such large water bodies are where apex predators live. Also, the moisture would damage my skin. I understand, Coach, Miller said. You can help from the shore. What about the rest of you? The other aliens also had reasons they couldn't enter the water. Blue's breathing apparatus wasn't waterproof. Gray's support system would short-circuit. Red would experience thermal shock. Purple's eardrums would rupture from the pressure. Coach Miller looked disappointed but nodded. Well, not everyone needs to swim for the competition. Let's find other Ways you can contribute. For the next hour, the aliens watched in amazement as humans voluntarily submerged themselves in the lake. They swam with powerful strokes, diving beneath the surface and emerging minutes later, apparently unharmed by either the water or the lack of air. "They're like amphibians," Blue muttered. "But warm-blooded and with advanced intelligence. Fascinating and terrifying." As they observed, Jack limped over to join them. His ankle was wrapped in some kind of supporting material, but he was walking. "How is your injury?" Blue asked, genuinely curious. "Will you recover without cybernetic replacement?" Jack looked confused, then laughed. "It's just a sprain, not a big deal. I'll be back to normal in a week or so." "A week?" Blue couldn't hide his amazement. "Your body can repair such damage in a week?" "Well, yeah," Jack said. "Bodies heal, don't yours?" The question made Blue realize how different they truly were. "Our healing is much slower. Such an injury would take months to repair naturally. Most choose cybernetic replacement instead." Jack seemed fascinated by this. "So you're part machine?" "Most Centaurians have at least some cybernetic components by adulthood," Blue explained. "It's more efficient than waiting for natural healing." Their conversation was interrupted by a shout from the lake. One of the human swimmers was waving. "Coach, there's something in the water." Coach Miller ran to the edge of the lake, suddenly alert. "Everyone out of the water, now!" The aliens watched, in alarm as the humans quickly swam to shore. Was it one of the apex predators Green had feared? "What is it?" Coach Miller asked the swimmer who had shouted. "Not sure," she said, pointing to a spot in the lake. "Something big moved under me." Everyone stared at the water. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a dark shape broke the surface, a furry head with whiskers and bright eyes. "It's just an otter," Coach Miller said, laughing with relief. "False alarm, everyone." The humans relaxed immediately, some even going back into the water. The otter swam around playfully, diving and resurfacing. "What is an otter?" Purple asked, her translator unable to find an equivalent. "A small mammal that lives in the lake," Tom explained. "Totally harmless to humans. Kind of cute, actually." The aliens watched the creature with caution. On their worlds, wild animals were almost always dangerous. The casual way humans coexisted with other species was difficult to comprehend. After swimming practice, Coach Miller led them to a different field for what he called coordination drills. Here humans threw and caught various balls with remarkable precision. "How can they do that with only 2 eyes and no echolocation abilities?" Red wondered aloud. To her surprise, Coach Miller heard her. "Good question. It's all about practice and depth perception. Want to try?" Before Red could refuse, he gently tossed a soft ball toward her. Instinctively, she raised her hands to protect herself and caught it. "Nice catch," Coach Miller said. "You have good reflexes." Red stared at the ball in her hands, feeling an unexpected sense of accomplishment. Throughout the day, each alien discovered something similar, a small skill they hadn't known they possessed. Gray, with his 6 limbs, could hold and move multiple objects at once, making him unexpectedly good at a game called juggling. Blue's mathematical mind quickly grasped the angles and forces involved in throwing. Green found that his ability to change color, even slightly, was useful for demonstrating camouflage techniques. Purple's sensitive hearing allowed her to detect movements others couldn't hear, giving her an advantage in reaction tests. The most surprising moment came late in the afternoon. The team was in the university's library, preparing for the academic bowl portion of the Coach War. Purple was struggling with a mathematics problem that seemed simple to the humans. "Your number system is strange," she said, frustrated. "On Vega, we use 15-dimensional calculations." "Maybe you could show us how you do math," suggested Emma. "It might help with some of the advanced problems." Purple hesitated, then began to explain vegan mathematics. To her surprise, the humans were fascinated. They asked questions, made connections to their own mathematical theories, and even suggested ways to combine the 2 approaches. By the end of the session, the team had developed a new way to solve certain problems, a hybrid of Earth and vegan methods. This is exactly the kind of thing that will give us an edge in the coach war, Coach Miller said, excited. Different perspectives working together. As the aliens walked back to their rooms that evening, they felt different. The fear of Earth was still there. The planet remained objectively dangerous to their biologies, but something else had grown alongside it, a sense of belonging, of contribution. The turning point came unexpectedly. They were crossing the main campus when they heard a loud crash. Purple's sensitive hearing picked it up first, and she turned to see what had happened. A large metal rack of sports equipment had fallen over near the gymnasium, and beneath it was a small figure, another alien student who had arrived just yesterday from a distant star system. Without hesitation, Coach Miller ran toward the scene. The human moved with shocking speed, reaching the fallen rack in seconds. With a display of strength that made the aliens gasp, he lifted the heavy metal structure with one arm while pulling the trapped student to safety with the other. "Are you okay?" Coach Miller asked, checking the new alien for injuries. The alien was fine, shaken but unharmed thanks to Coach Miller's quick action. As they watched this, Blue turned to the others. "Did you see that? He put himself in danger to help someone he barely knows." "The same traits that make humans dangerous," Purple said slowly. "Their strength, their speed, their seeming disregard for their own safety also make them incredibly effective protectors." Green finished. Something shifted in their understanding. Humans weren't just terrifying because they could survive almost anything. They were remarkable because they used that ability to help others survive too. For the first time since arriving on Earth, the 5 alien students felt truly safe. Not because the death world had become less dangerous, but because they were surrounded by beings who had mastered its dangers and were willing to face those dangers to keep others safe. Maybe, just maybe, they were on the right team after all. The day of the coach war arrived with what the humans called perfect weather. To the alien students, it was a terrifying mix of bright sunlight, scattered clouds, and a gentle breeze carrying millions of plant reproductive particles through the air. "Are you ready, team?" Coach Miller asked as they gathered at Westridge University's main sports field. Around them, teams from 11 other schools were also assembling, a colorful mix of uniforms and banners. The alien students were as ready as they could be. 2 weeks of training had done little to make Earth less dangerous to their biology, but it had changed something else: their confidence. They had found ways to contribute despite their limitations. Blue adjusted his breathing mask. "I am prepared for the academic bowl." Gray tested his gravity supports. "My coordination has improved for the strategy challenge." Red checked her thermal suit. "I will try my best in the relay race." Green blinked behind his protective goggles. "I have practiced the camouflage techniques." Purple stretched her long limbs. "My hearing will help during the team challenges." Coach Miller beamed at them. "That's the spirit. Remember, it's not about winning every event. It's about working together and using our diverse abilities." A loud whistle blew, and the 12 coaches gathered at the center of the field. The head judge, an older human with a clipboard, addressed them. "Welcome to the 35th Annual Intercollegiate Coach War. This year's theme is Embracing Diversity, and I see some very diverse teams." The judge's eyes lingered on the alien students with curiosity. "Let's review the rules. Each team will compete in 6 events. Points are awarded for first, second, and third place in each event. The team with the most points at the end wins the trophy." The first event was the obstacle course. Each team had to navigate a complex path filled with walls to climb, tunnels to crawl through, ropes to swing on, and mud pits to cross. 5 members from each team would run the course, and their combined time would determine the ranking. "I cannot participate in this," Blue said, looking at the mud pits with horror. "My breathing apparatus would fail." "Me neither," said Green. "The moisture would damage my skin." Coach Miller nodded. "We planned for this. Jack, Emma, Marcus, Lisa, and Tom will run for Westridge. The rest of you can help from the sidelines, call out warnings, give directions, anything to help our runners." The humans suited up, stretching their muscles and looking eager to begin. The alien students watched in amazement as Coach Miller a human in his 50s, joined the team to demonstrate parts of the course. "Watch how I handle the rope swing," he told them, effortlessly grabbing a thick rope and swinging across a pit of mud. "It's all about timing and grip strength." When it was Westridge's turn to run, the alien students positioned themselves at different points along the course. Purple used her sensitive hearing to warn Tom of a competitor approaching from behind. Green's color-changing ability helped guide Emma through a dark tunnel. Blue calculated the perfect angle for Marcus to throw a required object over a wall. Gray used his 6 limbs to signal complicated directions to Lisa. Red, despite her discomfort in Earth's heat, spotted an easier path through a maze that the humans had missed. Working together, the Westridge team completed the course with the third best time, earning them valuable points. "Great teamwork," Coach Miller shouted, high-fiving everyone. Even the aliens had learned this human gesture of celebration, though they were careful not to hit too hard with their different physiologies. Second event was the Academic Bowl, where teams answered questions on various subjects. Blue, with his mathematical mind, was a natural for this event. To everyone's surprise, he answered complex physics questions faster than any human. "How did you calculate that so quickly?" the judge asked after Blue correctly determined the trajectory of an object thrown with specific force and angle, accounting for Earth's gravity and air resistance. "On my world, we must calculate similar problems constantly due to our atmospheric conditions," Blue explained. "It's basic survival mathematics." When asked about Earth's biology, however, the aliens struggled. Questions about how plants converted sunlight to energy, how animal bodies repaired themselves, or how Earth's ecosystem maintained balance were completely foreign to them. Fortunately, the human team members covered these topics. Between them, they earned second place in the Academic Bowl. "We're in second place overall," Coach Miller announced as they checked the scoreboard. "Only Eastlake University is ahead of us." As if summoned by his name, Coach Wilson appeared, surrounded by his team. They wore blue and gold uniforms and looked confident. "Doing better than I expected, Miller," Coach Wilson said with a smirk. "Your space cadets actually seem useful." "They're not just useful," Coach Miller replied. "They're an essential part of our team." Coach Wilson laughed. "We'll see how essential they are after the swimming competition." The aliens looked at each other with worry. They had practiced supporting their human teammates from the shore, but none of them could enter the water. When they arrived at the lake, a surprise waited for them. The swimming competition wasn't just about speed. It also included demonstrations of rescue techniques, water safety knowledge, and boat handling. "This is perfect," Coach Miller said. "Blue and purple can manage the rescue boat with their communication skills. Gray can handle multiple lines and equipment with his 6 limbs. Red can spot swimmers in distress with her keen vision. Green can signal from shore with his color changes." Eastlake still won the swimming competition with their excellent human swimmers, but Westridge took a respectable third place, earning more points. By the third event, the relay race, word had spread through the competing schools about the space students who were braving Earth's harsh conditions. Other alien exchange students who had been hiding in their climate-controlled dormitories began to appear at the sidelines, watching with a mixture of terror and admiration. The relay race required each team member to run a portion of a track, passing a baton to the next runner. Most of the aliens couldn't run fast enough in Earth's gravity, but they found other ways to contribute. Gray, with his 6 limbs, developed a unique baton passing technique that saved precious seconds. Red, when it was her turn, surprised everyone. She had been training in secret, building up her stamina. When she received the baton, she ran her section slowly but steadily, refusing to give up despite the heat that threatened to overwhelm her thermal suit. As she approached the final stretch, her suit began to beep in warning. The temperature was rising too high for her safety. The crowd grew quiet, sensing something was wrong. "Red, stop," Coach Miller called. "Your health is more important than the race." But Red kept going. She had seen how humans pushed through pain, how they endured discomfort for their team. With a final burst of effort, she passed the baton to Tom, then collapsed on the track. Coach Miller and the medical team rushed to her side. They quickly moved her to a cooling station, where ice packs and shade helped her body temperature return to safe levels. When she regained consciousness, the entire Westridge team was waiting anxiously. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen, Coach Miller said, his voice a mix of concern and pride. I wanted to contribute, Red said weakly. Like a human would, Coach Miller shook his head. Humans know their limits, Red. We push them, yes, but we don't ignore safety. Don't scare us like that again. The team finished in 4th place in the relay race, but something more important had happened. The other teams were looking at Westridge and its alien students with new respect. During a break before the strategy challenge, Coach Wilson approached them again. This time his tone was different. That was impressive, he admitted, looking at Red. Not many beings would push themselves that hard on a planet that's trying to kill them. We're learning from the humans, Blue said simply. Coach Wilson seemed to consider this. Maybe we all are. He turned to Coach Miller. Good luck in the next events, you're going to need it. As he walked away, the alien students noticed other coaches watching them with curious eyes. Some even approached to ask questions about their homeworlds, their experiences on Earth, and their participation in the Coach War. They're treating us like real competitors now, Purple observed. Because you are, Coach Miller said. You've earned their respect. As the announcer called teams for the strategy challenge, the alien students felt something new. Pride in being part of this human event, this celebration of determination and teamwork on a planet they once feared. The death world was still dangerous, but they were no longer just surviving it. They were competing on it alongside the remarkable beings who called it home. The 4th event of the Coach War was the strategy challenge. Teams faced complex puzzles and games that tested their thinking rather than their physical abilities. For the first time, the alien students felt they had a real advantage. This is where we shine, Blue told his teammates as they entered the university's main hall, where game tables had been set up. The strategy challenge had 3 parts: a complex board game similar to chess, but with more pieces and rules, a team puzzle-solving race, and a resource management simulation. In the chess-like game, Blue's mathematical mind calculated moves far ahead. Gray's 6 limbs allowed him to move pieces with incredible speed and precision. Together they defeated Eastlake's best players, earning 1st place in that section. For the puzzle-solving race, the entire team worked together. Purple's sensitive hearing picked up whispers from other teams, giving them hints. Green's ability to change color helped him mark different puzzle sections without using tools. Red, still recovering from the relay race, spotted patterns others missed. Final puzzle, announced the judge. This is a 15-dimensional mathematical problem that requires calculating optimal resource distribution across multiple systems. The human students looked worried. Such complex math was beyond most of them. But Purple's eyes widened. This is like calculations we do on Vega, she said. I can solve this. As other teams struggled with the unfamiliar math, Purple worked quickly, explaining her approach to the human students. I need to think like a Vegan, Tom said, trying to follow her logic. Purple shook her head. No. Think like a human. Take a shortcut. She remembered how humans often found simple solutions to complex problems, what they called thinking outside the box. Combining her vegan training with human creativity, Purple solved the puzzle in record time. First place in the strategy challenge goes to Westridge University, the judge announced. The team celebrated wildly. Coach Miller hugged everyone, being careful not to damage the aliens' protective gear. We're tied with Eastlake for overall points, he told them. It all comes down to the final event, the endurance challenge. The alien celebration faded. Endurance was exactly what they lacked on Earth. Their protective systems were designed for short-term use, not extended activity. What exactly is the endurance challenge? Blue asked nervously. A 10-kilometer race through mixed terrain, Coach Miller explained. Hills, forest paths, a stream crossing, a true test of stamina and determination. The aliens looked at each other in dismay. Even with their training, such a long journey through Earth's hostile environment seemed impossible. We'll never win that, Gray said, his gravity supports whirring as he shifted his weight. Our equipment isn't designed for such extended use. Coach Miller gathered them all in a circle, his face serious but kind. Listen to me, he said. This isn't about winning. It's about showing up. It's about doing your best, whatever that means for you. He looked each alien in the eyes. Earth isn't special because it's the toughest planet in the galaxy. It's special because we never stop trying, even when the odds are against us. That's what I want you to remember today. His words gave them courage, but the aliens still felt doubt as they lined up at the starting point. All 12 schools were there, their teams stretching and preparing. Coach Wilson and his East Lake team looked confident, their blue and gold uniforms gleaming in the sunlight. The judge raised a starting pistol. Runners ready! With a loud bang, the race began. Human students from all schools shot forward, their powerful legs carrying them quickly across the field toward the forest path. The aliens tried to keep up, but Earth's gravity and atmosphere worked against them. Blue's breathing mask labored with each step. Gray's support strained under continuous use. Red's cooling system beeped warnings about overheating. Green kept as far from wet areas as possible. Purple's long limbs, while good for stride length, tired quickly in Earth's pull. Within minutes, the aliens were falling behind. Ahead, they could see Coach Wilson running with his fastest students, quickly taking the lead. But something strange was happening behind them. Coach Miller wasn't with the front runners. He had stayed back, jogging alongside his slowest team members, the aliens. Pace yourselves, he encouraged them. Slow and steady, we'll finish together. Other human students from West Ridge also fell back, forming a protective group around their alien teammates. Jack, his ankle still healing, matched his pace to Gray's. Emma ran beside Red, watching her thermal readings and suggesting rest when needed. Marcus helped guide Green around wet patches on the path. Why are you doing this? Blue asked between labored breaths. You could be ahead winning points. Coach Miller smiled. Because no one gets left behind. That's the real West Ridge way. The race path grew more challenging. Hills rose before them, steep and covered with loose rocks. The alien students struggled up these inclines, their various support systems pushed to their limits. Halfway through, the course disaster struck. Blue caught his foot on a tree root and fell hard, cracking part of his exoskeleton and damaging his breathing apparatus. The mask began to hiss, methane mixing dangerously with oxygen. I can't continue, Blue gasped, panic in his eyes. Without proper atmosphere, he would die in minutes. Without hesitation, Coach Miller lifted Blue onto his back. I've got you, he said, and began carrying the alien up the hill. The other aliens and human students watched in amazement. Coach Miller was 52 years old, already tired from running, and now carrying an alien who weighed almost as much as he did. Yet he kept going, one step at a time, refusing to leave anyone behind. Let me try to walk, Blue said after about a kilometer, his mask patched with emergency sealant from the first aid kit Tom carried. You've done enough. Coach Miller gently set him down but stayed close, ready to help if needed. This scene repeated itself throughout the race. When Green's protective goggles cracked at a stream crossing, Emma gave him her sunglasses and helped guide him. When Purple's long limbs began to cramp painfully, Jack and Marcus supported her between them. When Red's cooling system faltered, in the afternoon heat, Tom poured his water bottle over her thermal suit to help cool it. By the time they reached the final stretch, Westridge was far behind the other teams. Through the trees, they could see the finish line across an open field. Many teams had already finished. East Lake's blue and gold uniforms were visible among the celebrating groups. We've lost, Gray said, his voice tired but accepting. Have we? Coach Miller asked. Look around you. The alien students looked at each other, at their human teammates, at the path they had traveled together. They had crossed 10 kilometers, of what was, to them, the most hostile environment imaginable. They had faced hills, forest paths, a stream crossing, and they had survived. Not just survived, but kept going. Let's finish this together, Coach Miller said. All of us. Hand in hand, supporting each other, The entire Westridge team emerged from the forest and crossed the field toward the finish line. They moved slowly, their formation uneven as each accommodated the other's needs, but they moved as one team. The crowd at the finish line noticed them. A hush fell, then scattered applause began, growing louder as more people joined in. Even members of other teams began to clap. As they crossed the finish line, last place in the race but together, the judge approached with his clipboard. "Westridge University," he said, "finished with all team members. Eastlake University had 2 members quit the course when it became too difficult." He consulted his notes. "According to the rules of the Endurance Challenge, finishing with your complete team earns bonus points, combined with your previous scores." He looked up, a smile spreading across his face. "Westridge University wins this year's Coach War for HFY." A moment no one reacted, too surprised by the announcement. Then Coach Miller let out a whoop of joy, and the entire Westridge team erupted in celebration. Human students hugged each other and carefully patted their alien teammates. Coach Wilson pushed through the crowd, his face unreadable. He stopped in front of Coach Miller and held out his hand. "Congratulations," he said. "You taught us something important today." "What's that?" Coach Miller asked, shaking his hand. "That strength isn't just about being fast or tough," Coach Wilson replied, looking at the alien students. "It's about bringing everyone along with you." That evening, as the team celebrated with a special dinner, separate food for the aliens, of course, the 5 exchange students sat together, watching the humans laugh and talk around them. "I understand now," Blue said quietly. "Why Earth is classified differently from other planets." "Because it's so dangerous?" Green asked. Blue shook his head. "No, because it produced a species that doesn't just survive danger. They turn it into a reason to help each other." Red nodded. "On most worlds, the strong survive by leaving the weak behind. On Earth," Purple finished, "the strong make sure everyone survives." They watched as Coach Miller raised the Coach War trophy, calling every team member, human and alien, to stand with him as he thanked them individually for their contribution. "Perhaps," Gray said, "that is the most alien concept we've encountered yet. And the one most worth bringing back to the stars," Blue added. Their protective gear still hissed, beeped, and whirred as their bodies fought against Earth's hostile environment. But for the first time since arriving on this death world, they felt something unexpected, a sense of belonging. Not because they had conquered Earth's dangers, but because they had found friends willing to face those dangers with them. Earth remained a death world, but its true strength, the strength of cooperation, of refusing to leave anyone behind, was something worth traveling across the galaxy to discover.